Good evening, all of you. I hope all of you can see and hear me clearly. I am Nikita Gupta. I welcome you to BYJU'S Exam Prep and I welcome you to this session that is a part of this series called Last Lap to CMAT. Right. So today we'll talk about RC passages which form a major component of your language comprehension section. Now, earlier, as per the format, there used to be 25 questions in language comprehension, out of which in one of the slots last year, 14 were from RC passages. So look at the importance that RC passages carry. However, CMAT is a little unpredictable in terms of the number of passages it is going to give you. I'll show this to you in detail in a coming slide. Good evening, Anandu, Makarand, okay, so Anandu again said good evening, all right. Rachna, Roshan, hi, welcome to the session. Let's begin. Let's talk about RCs. We'll not just attempt a couple of RCs. We'll also look at okay, what genre did they belong to? Should I have attempted this one first or that one first? Right? What should be my strategy when it comes to the language comprehension? How should I order my questions? Right? We'll discuss all these things as well. So let us begin. Now, this is a glimpse of RC passages over the last 5 years, right? So as you can see in CMAT 21, as I just told you, slot 1 had 4 RCs that spanned 14 questions, okay? So 6 here, 8 here, right? 2 passages with 4 questions each and 2 passages with 3 questions each, coming to a total of 14 questions out of 25. Now I hope you know your pattern has been revised and you just have 20 questions, right, per section. So 20 questions in the VARC section, right? It is also called language comprehension by CMAT. These 20 questions will fetch you 80 marks, right? 4 marks per correct question. Okay, and there is a negative marking of 1. So, 14 questions, yes. And in slot 2, however, look at the drastic difference. Just 2 passages, one with 3 questions and one with 2 questions. So that becomes just 5 questions out of 25. So that was a drastic difference in slot 1 and 2. I wonder how they thought about normalizing it, right? Whether they did it, whether they didn't. I hope such drastic, because there's just one slot, so that possibility of such drastic differences is eliminated altogether. Now that the notification is out, we know that there is just one sitting, right? So this you don't need to worry about. And if you see, if I look at these 3 years, right, 17, 18, 19, things have been pretty consistent here. One passage of 6 questions, 3 passages of 3 questions, right? So in my opinion, again, I think you can expect 3 to 4 RC passages this year as well. That is my opinion about the number of RC passages that you're going to get. So again, this is going to be a major component. If let's say you get about 10 questions from RC passages out of 20, that's a major component, right? So that's why they're important. Yes. Hi Roshan, hi Vinay, Riya, Shalini, Sweetie, good evening. Pooja, Tejasvi, good evening. Hello. All right. Also, last year you had a paragraph based single question. Okay, so single question, a central idea question based on a paragraph. In one of our previous sessions, I have already covered this question with you. Okay, so you can watch that session. I think it was how to tackle CMAT English. That was the name of the session. And there we attempted this question, right? Okay, so this is your passage 1 now. This is a passage from last year itself, CMAT 2021. It was a good passage. I'll tell you my purpose behind doing this with you, right? When we come to the questions, I'll reveal that to you. Right now, I want all of you to read carefully. Okay, so I'll show you the slide. You have to read. You have to let me know when you want me to change to the next slide. Okay, so let's start. Yes, passage 1. On reading the first couple of lines, I realized that this passage is perhaps about philosophy of education, right? So it's about education, it's philosophical perhaps. So that's what I gather. Now, in the exam, if let's say you are not comfortable with philosophy, right? So then I suggest that you don't make this your first RC passage. So this is the part about prioritizing that I was discussing with you. Prioritizing becomes very important when there are multiple RCs, okay? Because if you choose the very first passage to be difficult, you might end up wasting a lot of time there, right? So go for a passage that is interesting for you, that you like reading, where the language is simple. So does the genre interest me? Is the language simple? That's what I look at. So because for me, I like reading about philosophy. This is about education. That's the sector that I work in. So this is interesting for me. I would have gone on reading this, and the language also doesn't appear to be very difficult to me, right? So you could decide this by reading the opening line of every paragraph, by reading the first paragraph fully, right? So these are some of the ways in which you can decide which one I want to attempt first, right? Please continue. Read the first slide. Let me know. All right, let's go to the next slide then. Done. This slide as well talks about Plato, his beliefs regarding education. All right, let's see the next slide now. Let me know once you finish with this slide. Hmm. Done. Okay. So Kripa says she has completed. I hope others also have completed. In this paragraph, in these two paragraphs, we talk about Aristotle's beliefs, his views, and we talk about Thomas Aquinas perennialism. Right. Now, I did not read it out for you because that is not going to build your reading stamina. You have to build your reading stamina, right? So that's why I don't read out passages. Now, this if you now you tell me from your perspective, how did you find the language? Was it easy, moderate, difficult? How was it, the language of this passage? This was there in CMAT 2021 slot 1. How do you find the language? Good evening, anonymous. Okay. Easy. Makaran says easy. I agree absolutely with you. The language was not difficult. Even though we talked about philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, St. Thomas Aquinas, the author had really simplified things for us, right? No difficult terms used in the passage as such. No difficult concepts that required a deep level of comprehension. So now, let's look at our question 1. What is the difference between the approaches of Socrates and Aristotle? Yes, four options. Tell me. Difference between the approaches. Okay, easy to moderate, all right. So, difference in approaches. In case you wish to go back to a certain section, you can tell me. Okay, Pooja is saying moderate. Asmi says A, all right. So, I've got my first response. Khushi says A. Others? Pratik says A with a question mark. Yes, just three responses. That's it. What were the others doing? If you don't have any response, okay, I've got a D as well. A, all right. So let's just go back for once and cross check this, right? Difference between Socrates and Aristotle's approach. So I can see an unlike here, right? Probably a contrast has been drawn. So he here refers to Aristotle. He proposed that teachers lead their students systematically and that repetition be used as a key tool to develop good habits. Unlike Socrates, his emphasis on questioning his listeners to bring out their own ideas. So Socrates' emphasis was on questioning his listeners to bring out their own ideas. So that was the difference. One focused on repetition in instruction and the other focused on questioning students themselves. So it is A. Okay, not D because Socrates emphasized on an all-round development, right? Sorry, just a second. Let's see if Socrates' viewpoint has been mentioned or not. He emphasized, okay. Okay, so see, Aristotle's emphasis is on multiple things: reading, writing, mathematics, music, physical education, literature, history, and a wide range of sciences. So, even Aristotle focused on a wide range of sciences. So, I can't present this as a point of contrast between Aristotle and Socrates if Aristotle is also focusing on a wide range of sciences, right? So that's why D is erroneous. In fact, it's not the main point of contrast. That particular section told us what the main point was. C can be very easily eliminated. Aristotle nowhere talked about rote learning. So this becomes alien to my passage, right? Not mentioned in my passage. That's why A is our answer. Okay, let's talk about question 2. Why do educationists consider philosophy a weak and woolly field? Let's see what you say. I hope you remember where this was mentioned. All right, I've got one response. Anush has answered. Okay, Samriddhi, Kripa, Kirti, Makarand, all of you saying A. Pooja also. Okay. Pratik also says A. Sweetie also A. Very good. So it's a resounding A. Okay. Absolutely correct. And good that you remembered where this was mentioned. It was mentioned right in the beginning. Many educationalists consider it a weak and woolly field. Okay. Woolly is something that is not clear. Okay. So too far removed from the practical applications of the real world to be useful. So that's very clear. A has to be our answer. It's not something that's practically applicable. It's too far from the practical reality, from practical application. So no, no, and no. Okay, these are eliminated. This is too extreme and not really mentioned. Okay, again, not mentioned. So we eliminate these options. So far, I think you must have realized this that the questions have not really been very difficult. Yes, one, two, both were fine. Okay, both were more in the nature of direct questions. Okay, third one, were Plato's beliefs about education democratic? So let's see what you say for this. And again, if you want to go back, please let me know. Were Plato's beliefs about education democratic? Hmm. Do you wish to go back? Anybody? Okay, so I've got a response. Yes. Makaran, Suraj, Pratik, Renu, all of you are saying yes. All right, all right. So why not C? That's my question. Because see, I'll show you a certain section here, right? When we talk about Plato, uh, we begin from here, right? He believed that education should be holistic, including facts, skills, physical discipline, music, and art. Plato believed that talent and intelligence is not distributed genetically and thus is to be found in children born to all classes. Although his proposed system of selective public education for an educated minority of the population does not really follow a democratic model. So, given this part, how is the answer yes? That's my question. Right. Given the fact that his proposed system does not really follow a democratic model, can I say that his beliefs about education were democratic? And his view was that his proposed model had selective public education for a minority. Yes. So, you people are absolutely correct. Okay, B is the answer. Yes, but I want your answer to be a well-informed answer because in the exam, if you retain this part, then you might get confused as to why C is not the answer. So, two reasons. First of all, I'm talking about Plato's beliefs, not how the implementation aspect of it. His proposed system is a part of how he wanted to implement things, right? That is implementation. So that is one thing. Secondly, we are talking about selective public education for an educated minority of the population. Did we anywhere discuss the idea of schools? Selective public education, does it have to happen in schools only? So, meant to attend schools, this part is very shaky. Okay, it's something that is distorted. So because of these two things, because that aspect, that his system, his model did not follow a democratic model, that is his implementation. But his beliefs, Plato's beliefs were democratic only. His beliefs were that okay, talent and all is not genetic. It's not confined to a few classes. Okay, so B, right? Okay, okay. So Kripa, is this clear now? Why B? Hmm. I hope this is clear. If you still have any query, you can always type in the chat box and ask me, okay? All right. So this was a tricky question there, right? That's what I feel. Because if you retained that part, you could have thought for a while here, right? Required some thought. Now, question 4. Why did Aquinas propose a model of education which did not lay much emphasis on facts? Okay, I've got one response already. Good. Others. So Sarah is the first one to answer. Let's see what the others say. Tejasvi says C. Anonymous also says C. Kirti C. All right. This was an out and out direct question, a very easy question. Okay. Because Aquinas was mentioned towards the very end in the last paragraph. I am very positive that all of you have retained this part. Okay. So you need not even go back and cross check. Right. But still, just to show you that, okay, he said that, principles, reasoning, this is what should be given importance and not just facts which are apt to change over time. So facts are apt to change over time, likely to change over time. That is why. So that's why C, direct question, nothing difficult here. So an analysis. So these were the 4 questions in this passage. An analysis of this passage shows that okay, the genre was philosophy and education. The language, the level of reading was easy, right? For easy to moderate, as some of you have said, right? 3 questions were easy and direct. One, as I just showed you, question 3 was a little indirect and therefore a little tricky. That's what I would call it. The easy questions were 2, right? Very direct based on the second paragraph. Then this one again, you just had to go back and hunt the difference. So 1, 2 and 4 were easy questions. So my point here is the why am I showing all this to you? Focus on the easy ones. See, all of them are going to fetch you 4 marks only. It's not like a difficult question will fetch you 6 marks, right? That's not going to happen. So why don't you maximize your score and focus on these instead? If let's say you are able to arrive at a yes in that question, very good, nothing like it. But if you are confused between 2 options and you're just not able to get out of that confusion, then don't waste unnecessary time on it. Okay, if after 40-50 seconds also it hasn't really struck you, then probably you will just mark something randomly at the end and not something based on reasoning. So why not skip this and rather focus on these 3? That's my suggestion to you. Okay, so Vrinda, this would be the first step, that instead of trying to, let's say, attempt each and every question, each and every RC passage or each and every question in the VA part, focus on the easy ones first. First attempt all the easy ones, right? So that's one tip, right? There's another tip regarding a question type that I'll give you towards the end, and I'll keep on giving other tips in between. Okay. Yes, if you find value in this session, if you so far are liking it, then please press the like button. Okay. Also, very important, comment in case anything is not clear to you. You can right now comment in the chat box. You can add comments later on, right? So that helps me to know what works and what doesn't. Okay, so do comment. Then share it with your friends who are preparing for CMAT. I'm sure a lot of students are. And yes, if you want to automatically keep on receiving updates regarding various sessions, you should subscribe to our channel. Okay. Now, just one thing, some VRC tips before we begin with the next session. See, I have covered these tips in some of our previous sessions also, but in case you are attending for the first time, my first tip would be that instead of starting with RCs, always start with VA. So complete VA first. I have these tips in a slide also, in a coming slide as well, but let's discuss this because it has been raised. Complete the vocabulary grammar questions first. If you get parajumbles, then parajumbles first. So basically the idea is to complete the short questions first, because these are time saving and they automatically boost your confidence. Because see, if let's say in the first 10 minutes I have attempted 12, 13 questions, that boosts my confidence like anything, that okay, I have covered such significant ground. So they are time saving, they are confidence boosting, also they are knowledge based, either you know them or you don't know them. Then grammar, if you have prepared for grammar, as I said that it is knowledge based, you are likely to get those questions right. Okay, so go for these questions first. In RC is always prioritized. So one of the reasons why students don't score is they choose a passage that is not suited to them. Okay, and they end up spending a lot of time. So there's no time management that's happening on their end. Time management is crucial in an exam like CMAT, where you have to manage the time on your own, right? So you tell me, I told this to you in a previous session also, how much time should you give to the language comprehension or the VARC section? Yes. How much time? We discussed this last time as well. Yes. So earlier when there were 25 questions, we used to tell you that 35 to 45 minutes is fine, right? Now that there are 20 questions only, I think 30 to 35 minutes is your ideal BRC or language comprehension time for CMAT. And believe me, in this time period, you can comfortably finish your passages, all your passages, and all your BA questions, right? This is time enough. Because see, even if you get, let's say, 12 questions from RCs and 8 from VA, right? So, how much maximum time would you need for these 12 questions? I think not more than 20 minutes. 1.5 minutes per question से भी ज़्यादा बताया मैंने आपको. 20 minutes here. For 8 VA questions, I think you won't need more than 8 minutes, but at the most 10 minutes here. So 30 to 35 minutes. 35 also have given you a very liberal time period to complete your VRC section. So make sure that you stick to these time limits, because there are other sections also that you have to attempt and maximize your score in. So complete VA first, prioritize your RC passages, manage your time well, focus on the easy questions as I just told you, right? And in case you feel that there is some weak area of mine, so for instance, one of you just asked about, uh, good, all of your guesses were correct, right? One of you just asked about synonyms, antonyms that are based on, acha, the message has been retracted, but synonym antonym. So that means probably you observed it after taking a few mock tests, let's say, or attempting the past year papers. You observed that synonym antonyms is one area that I'm weak in. So you have identified a weak area, now work on it. So that means vocabulary needs to be worked on. More and more synonym and antonym questions need to be attempted. For vocabulary, I have told you the source so many times. Barron's list could be one of your source, right? Barron's 800. Then past year papers of various non-CAT exams, those could be your source. So this is what you can do at this point for your vocabulary. So identify your weak areas and work on them. So I think this is what I would tell you. Acha, so the fifth option has got hidden behind me, right? So yes, weak areas. Yes, I'm writing it. Work on your weak areas. So these are some of the tips from my end. Now, to get maximum score in VRC, Kripa, the suggestions remain the same. Absolutely. This is your strategy, right? And the better you prepare for the exam. So look at the kinds of questions that appear. So I took this session called How to Tackle CMAT English. There I even told you that in grammar what kinds of questions appear, in vocabulary what kinds of questions appear. So have that knowledge of the framework and prepare within that framework. All right. Okay. For CMAT RC, some source. See, CMAT RC passages tend to be easy. So, MHCT past year papers usually share a similar level, and SNAP papers, usually SNAP RCs, they again share a similar level. So, you could refer to these two first, okay? Because other sources that I could suggest, they would be relatively more difficult. Okay, for instance, a CAT RC would be very difficult when compared to a CMAT RC. So, MHCT, SNAP, these two would be of a similar level. Okay. All right. So next session, I'll just tell you the time. Okay. I just need to confirm it once. I'll tell you. Don't worry. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Yes, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Uh, Tomorrow at 1 p.m. I will see you again with a session on, how you can increase your CMAT score. We'll look at some good VA questions tomorrow. Okay. So I'll see you at, no, wait, I'll confirm the time. Don't worry about the time. I'll confirm it towards the end of the session. Let's start with our second passage. Now, this passage is again interesting. It is followed by 6 questions, so read it carefully. Okay. And easy language, something that all of you will be able to relate to. Let's start and let me know once you finish this slide. Okay. Shiba, we have a session on grammar. As part of the last lab, we have a session. I'm just looking for my schedule. I'll just share it with you, okay? So that things become easy. Let me know once you finish this slide. Okay, so I've got one yes. Moving to the next slide. Completed the previous one, I hope. Completed this one also. Okay, so done. I hope, I don't know, there was some buffering that was happening on my end. Sorry. So, just two slides, and yet there are six questions based on this RC passage. Good. So, all of you have completed this. Now, you were asking about the schedules on 22 March. I'll now meet you for CMAT at 7 p.m. over YouTube. This will be a session on verbal reasoning, because in the logical reasoning section, you do get a lot of questions of verbal reasoning. Okay, statement assumptions, etc. Right? Strong, weak argument, those questions. So, we'll tackle them on 22nd March. On 23rd March, I'll see you with popular questions from CMAT previous years. In the coming days, we also have dedicated sessions for grammar and for vocabulary. So, sweetie, we will cover synonyms and antonyms there. All right. Um, okay. So, I hope, just a second. I am audible and visible to everybody now. I hope that, right? Just a second. Let me read your previous messages because some of them got loaded a little late. Accuracy in grammar questions, that was one query. Then concentration and reading RC questions first. Okay, so accuracy in grammar, then concentration and reading questions first. I have noted these down here. Let's attempt this RC so that you don't forget what you've read, and then I'll address these. Okay, I'll address these. Okay, yes. So complete the following sentence. Tilak's messages were most effective. Dash. What do you say? Tilak's messages were most effective. Dash. Let's see who answers the most quickly. This is a direct question. Ashish has answered B. All right. Pooja says B. Sweetie says B. Okay. Okay. Anonymous noted A, B. All right. A, B. That's what I'm getting. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Tilak spoke. See this. Uh, Tilak spoke more eloquently from the Mandalay fortress than through columns of the printed Kesari. Right. So perhaps he was there in a fortress, okay, or he spoke from a fortress than through the columns of the printed publication that he had. So when were his messages most effective? When he actually spoke them, not after his death. See, we talk about the part after his death. By his death, we have been editing his paper without pen and speech through the sacred resolution of the people to realize his life's dream. Right. So that does not mean that his words are most effective now after his death. No, it just says that now we are editing the paper. So because we have the sacred resolution that we want to realize his life's dream. Right. His messages were most effective when delivered in speeches. Okay, D is the answer. So this required some going back and looking at where I have talked about his messages and where do I talk about their quality, right? That is why how you'll judge, no, most effective, not effective. So this is the part that you had to look for. Okay, so this was not a very difficult question, but seeing the responses, I would say that it was moderate, right? Because some of you got confused and said this. Good that no, some of you mentioned A also, no? Yes, okay. So I was about to say good that nobody said A, but some of you have said A. So I hope you've understood why not A, why not B. Before his imprisonment, my passage says something otherwise. So I'll not reveal it to you because there is one question based on this. We'll look, C will become clear to you after that question. Okay, question 2. Which of the following is the result of Lokmanya Tilak's exemplary life? So, what is the result? of his exemplary life? What do you say? Mihir, 1 to 2 are likely to be tricky, right? So most of them, however, are going to be direct. Okay, so the responses that I've got are A, and some of you are saying D also. Okay, A or D. I think I just read it for you a while ago. So the result of his exemplary life is A itself, not D. The books written by him are useful. Their usefulness has not really been commented on. What has been commented on about the books is that they sold little but had an enormous effect. They were very impactful. Okay, they had an enormous effect. So, the result of his exemplary life, okay, is this, that even after his death, people want to realize his life's dream. That is the result of his exemplary life. Had he not led an exemplary life, okay, then why would people want to fulfill his life's dreams? Okay, this is not a result of his exemplary life. Usefulness is something that is distorted. We were talking about effect, enormous effect. No and no. This is alien, and this has not really been said as a result of his exemplary life. Okay, so A is our answer. Hope this is clear to everybody. Now, good. Quite a few of you said A. Good. We discussed this indirectly in the previous question. So this was not a tricky question again, easy question. Question 2. Which of the following is the general tendency of critiques according to the passage? The general tendency of critiques. Direct question again. Let's see what you say. Okay. Let's see what you say. Question 3. You're saying D. Pankaj, Pranav sir has taken a whole session on this, ranking various colleges of SI symbiosis. Okay, I suggest that you go through that session. It will give you a very comprehensive picture. Okay, so D is what you are saying. B is what some of you are saying. A also, I've got 1 or 2 A's also. Is this the answer? So why I took this question is because some of the websites that have these papers, they mention A as the answer, which is erroneous, which is incorrect. No, the answer will be D. See, this is very clearly mentioned towards the end. Critics like me would perhaps be still finding fault in the expression of this or that. So that means it's a general tendency to condemn everything that is not mentioned anywhere. Okay, so that becomes alien and extreme at the same time. So, so the answer here is not A because it is extreme and alien. Okay, to justify their criticism, again, no such tendency has been talked about in the passage. To praise only those writers they like, again, the fact that they're biased is not discussed. So there is only one thing that has been discussed, and that has to be the answer. Hence D. Good. Uh, Again, quite a few of you said D. Good. All right. Question 4. In the context of the passage, a reformer becomes effective if. So when, if, yes, what is the condition for a reformer to become effective? Yes, keep answering. For question 3, Kushi, I'll go back and look at it. Don't worry. So for this, Renu says C, Anush says D, Riya D, Tanvi D, all right. Samriddhi D, Shama D, Kirti D, all right. So a lot of D is coming my way. Absolutely correct. D is the answer. Okay. So this is mentioned in the beginning, right in the beginning. If I go back, that the reformer must know that what moves people is the authentic life, not mere writing. You have to be what you are writing. Yes, that's what this author is trying to say. The newspaper and journals that Tilak and other reformers ran, the books they wrote, sold a little but had an enormous effect. Their writing was known to reflect and just be an extension of their exemplary lives. It was the authenticity of their lives which lent weight to their message, to their example. Okay, so their life was consistent with what they were writing, and that's why these are answered. He is a journalist with an objective viewpoint, not discussed at all in the passage. Okay, not discussed at all. Also, a journalist usually would not see who is an eloquent speaker who appeals to your emotions well, right? That person, so emotionally appealing, would be eloquent. So, a journalist with an objective viewpoint won't need to be eloquent because at the end of the day, he's presenting an objective viewpoint. But for Tilak, I have talked about he spoke more eloquently through Mandalay Fortress, right? So, a cannot be the answer. He is an author with an excellent style of writing. Nowhere has this been discussed. He is a good critique of social practices. While in general it may be true, we don't have to apply our external knowledge. Always remember, we just have to stick to the passage. Okay. Okay. So now, Kushi was asking me, can we interpret A in the previous question from the first paragraph? No, we cannot, because nowhere the part about condemning these reformer writers has come into the picture in first paragraph, right? And even this one hasn't been, in case you were asking about question 4. So I hope this is clear now. Easy question. Let's move to the fifth one. Yes, let's see what you say. Which of the following types of writers can be moral in their personal life and lack in public life? Yes. Let's see what you say. Okay. Anonymous says D, Samriddhi D, Tanvi D, Pooja D. Okay. Shiva says B. All right. A lot of other Ds. So, let's see. See, now the thing is that in the previous question, we have just seen that these people, reformers, they need to be consistent both in their personal life and in their public life, in their writing life, right? So, those who want to reform people is out of the window. Yes, those whose writing is an extension of their exemplary lives, don't you think that by definition they can't afford this? By definition, they cannot afford to be moral in their personal life but lack in public life. If their writing is an extension of their exemplary lives, then even in their public writing life, they would be moral. So, B does not make sense logically also. Those who lead an authentic life, again, in their personal as well as in their public life, they would be consistent. So actually, none of them can be the answer. A, B, and C. Okay. So now let's have a look as to how we had to attempt this question. Let me tell you, this was a slightly tricky question. A slightly tricky question this was. While most of you answered correctly D, why this was slightly tricky, let me show it to you. See this. In the first paragraph, actually the first paragraph is a little ambiguous. The language here is not that great. All knew, so I had read the part before this, that it was the authenticity of their lives which lent weight to their message, to their exam. All knew that their lives, the reformers' lives, were an integral whole. They were not, now see, some students might read it like this, they were not moral in public life. That's not how this has to be read. They were not moral in public life and lacking in private. So they were not this. They were not such people who acted morally in their public life, but in their private life they lacked something. So this language was a little ambiguous, and in the paper a student would have got confused because of this. But the interpretation should be that they were not the kind of people who would project morality in public life, but in their private life they were not moral at all. So those are not the kind of writers that reformers are. And see, it is for reformers only that we have used the word that they were authentic writers. Okay, their writing was an extension of their exemplary life. So it refers, all of it refers to reformer writers only. That means if I have rejected A, then by corollary from what my passage says, I'll also reject B and C, because all of these things have been mentioned for reformer writers only. So A, B, and C cannot be the answers. Okay, and D is the one that can be the answers. It is only the D group, those who want to entertain people, that can afford an inconsistency in their personal and public life. Only D. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. All right. So Anuj, work on various areas. You definitely have to work on the areas, right? You know where you stand right now, but to get where you have to be, just bridge that gap. Vocabulary, grammar, RC passages. Just see what components are there and then work on them, right? And then of course admission ho jayega. ठीक है? So question 6. In the context of the passage, which of the following statements about Tilak and the reformers is true? So what do you say? Which of the following statements about Tilak and the reformers, other reformers, is true? Eliminate and you will get your answer. Okay. Asmi says A. Why A? What has happened? I just read this part, no? That they were not the kind of people who would project morality in public life but would lack it in private life. No, their public life and private life both were consistent. You have to give me the statement that is true. So Anush says C, Pooja says B. All right. Yes. See, first of all, A should have been eliminated right away. Similarly, D should have been eliminated right away. Their influence on people was negligible. No, the people are carrying forward their legacy. That's why they are still editing that paper and everything that is mentioned. So A and D go against my passage. Between B and C, very few people used to read the newspapers even from inside the jail. Has this part been mentioned about people inside the jail? We have not discussed people inside the jail, right? So we are just talking about Tilak before and after his imprisonment. We haven't talked about people residing inside jail, other people, readers. So this is completely alien. That's why C has to be the answer. They were allowed to edit their newspapers even from inside the jail. Yes, this is implicit. This is something that is implicit because I am saying that his influence was multiplied 1,000-fold by his imprisonment, and his speech and his pen had acquired much greater power after he was discharged than before his imprisonment. So if his pen had acquired greater power after he was discharged than before, that means during the period of his imprisonment, he was writing and editing. Yes. So this is implicit in this statement. I hope you understand what I'm saying, and that C is the answer. All right. Good. A lot of you have said C later on. Good. Okay. Now, an analysis of this passage shows us that this was about history and writing. The level of reading was not difficult. You could say that, okay, even on the conservative side, 4 were easy and 2 were tricky, right? So 4 questions were easy. See, this one could have been done through elimination. Okay. Then again, through elimination, you could have attempted this. But okay, let's say this, let's call this tricky. Okay. Then fourth was easy. Fourth was easy because this is not mentioned, this is not mentioned. So ये सब mentioned ही नहीं है, right? Again, easy because only D was mentioned in the passage, right? 2, A is the only one again that has been mentioned. 1. So these again, okay, some of you found it tricky, so that's why I labeled it as moderate. So 2 questions I can say were tricky, yes, but 4 of them were easy and direct. So my point is that if you find yourself stuck, then please unstuck yourselves. Okay, don't get obsessed with these 2 tricky and indirect questions and waste your time there. Don't do that. Okay, I hope this makes sense. How much accuracy is required in VARC? See, in CMAT you have to maximize your overall score, right? So if English is your strength, then maximize your accuracy as much as you can, maximize your score as much as you can, right? Also, honestly speaking, see, you can't decide that okay, this is going to be my accuracy. If let's say today I decide, okay, I will attempt 90% of the questions accurately. Nobody deliberately decides that. Would you deliberately want 10% of your questions to be wrong? So the percentage of accuracy is what comes later after you have attempted. Okay. Your goal should be that, okay, if English is my strength, then I should focus on attempting as many questions as accurately as per my knowledge and logic as I can. If English is not my strength, then again, I should focus on the easy ones and then go to the sections that are my strength. Or first attempt those sections that are my strength and then come to English and attempt the easy ones. Right? That should be the strategy. How many questions should be an ideal attempt, Pratik? It entirely depends on how many questions of what type you get, how many RC questions you get, how many VA questions you get, what is the level of difficulty of those questions, right? So, for instance, slot 2 VA RC last year was relatively easier, while slot 1 was relatively more difficult. So, of course, students of slot 1 were able to attempt relatively fewer questions. So, these things depend on that analysis. Knowing CMAT C, I think any student whose English is very weak also, I think can attempt 50% of the paper easily because some of the CMAT questions are bound to be very direct or very easy. Right? So that's my analysis of it. Okay, now coming to your queries, you were asking me about these things. Accuracy in grammar, the only way to improve your accuracy in grammar is to know the rules behind various concepts. So you need to have that knowledge of various rules behind grammar. In some of our YouTube sessions that were conducted last year, we did discuss some of these rules, right? Grammar books in the market do discuss these rules. Then, if let's say you feel that now I don't have that kind of time, some of you might get that feeling. In that case, you can back engineer. So attempt as many grammar questions as you can, and through those questions, learn as many rules as you can. So that back engineering can be done. Concentration. See, the only solution to improving your concentration is to will yourself, force yourself to concentrate. Okay. So that's why I say start with something that is interesting for you. So if let's say it's been a while since you read since CAT, then start with something that interests you. Okay. Anything gripping, let's say, you could start with let's say any short story that you like, and then gradually proceed to these areas that you are not very comfortable with, that pose concentration problems, and then sit with it. Don't just give up easily. That's the only way to improve concentration. Okay. Reading questions first. So it works for some students. For some students, it doesn't. Okay. So see what works for you. If reading the question stems first makes you more attentive towards those terms when they come in the RC passage, by all means read the question stems first, not the options. So read the question stems first. If, however, that does not happen for you, for instance, I am the kind of person who would first read the entire passage, then go to the questions, or I would read at least the opening sentences of various paragraphs in case I choose to skim the passage and then go to the questions first. That's the kind of person that I am. So see what works for you. Where you get higher accuracy in a shorter period of time, that should be your choice. Okay. Now, Kushi, we can't say that. See, don't make such conjectures. There's no use because see, I can say that okay because the registration window was open for a long time. That could imply more registration and therefore more competition. So these are just conjectures. Yes, Count of Monte Cristo is good. Yes, I remember we had a chapter in school from it, an excerpt, and then later on that motivated me to read the entire thing. Right. Word par made easy if let's say you're not able to be consistent with it. How do I tell you how to be consistent? Just yes, I think that helps. Dedicate one particular point of time every day. Don't be flexible with that point of time. That okay, at this point of time, I have to do this. Nothing else should happen at that time. So this time has memory. Okay, when you do this at let's say you make keep 4 p.m. as the time randomly, then at 4 p.m. automatically the book will come to your mind and you'll feel like doing the book. Okay, so that's one thing. Second, the book is already interesting. I don't know why you're not getting interest in this. There is a story behind every word. There's an etymology behind every word, right? So for deepening our interest in anything, a depth of knowledge is required. अभी कॉमेडी मूवी जैसा इंटरेस्टिंग नहीं हो सकता, एट द मोस्ट डॉक्यूमेंट्री लेवल इंटरेस्टिंग हो सकता, ठीक है. For recall value, revise certain chapters. So whatever you do from let's say Monday to Saturday, revise that on Sunday, all those chapters that you've completed. That's the solution for retention. Okay. How to improve vocabulary? I will discuss this in a whole session where we talk about vocabulary mihir, so do not worry about it. Okay, there is a whole session that's based on CMAT vocabulary, and again the general suggestions I've already given you. Word par made easy, Barron's 800, past year papers, past year non-cat papers, vocabulary questions from there. Right? So I hope this helps you, okay, and this works for you. Keep preparing. If you face any problems, we are going to meet quite a few times now. Okay, there are a lot of sessions lined up for CMAT. I have told you my schedule. So I'll meet you on 22nd March and on 23rd March. Okay, on 22nd March, I'll see you at 7 p.m. and on 23rd, it will be 1 p.m. Right, both for CMAT, right, on YT. So I'll see you then and we'll solve a lot more questions, clarify a lot more queries, right? Okay, and something that I've already told you, just a recap of what all we have learned today. Attempt BA first. Be prepared for multiple RCs. There could be up to 3 to 4 RCs as I've told you. Prioritize your RCs. For prioritization, how to decide which one to attempt first. Read the opening sentences of every para. They'll give you an idea about the genre and the level of language, right? Difficulty level of language. Focus on the easy or direct questions. Do not get stuck on the difficult ones. You can spend up to 20 minutes in RC passages. You have that kind of time. Okay. And the main idea question, usually I attempted at the end of a particular RC. Because by that time, if I've already attempted, let's say 4 questions from that RC, that means I have referred to multiple sections again. So it gives me a better, more comprehensive knowledge about the main idea. So I go for it towards the end of that RC. Alright. So these are some tips from my end. Okay, welcome all of you. Okay, I'll see you next time, as I said, on 22nd March and 23rd March, on 22nd at 7 p.m. on YT and on 23rd at 1 p.m. on YT. All right, bye-bye. And yes, do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. It helps us a lot. Okay. Yes, keep attending the last lap to CMAT. Some very interesting and important sessions lined up for you. This is our GDPI program, right? You know about it by now, I think. And this is our ongoing batch in case some of your friends want to enroll. Join our Telegram group in case you have any further doubts that you would like to be you would want to be clarified. And yes, you can follow us on Instagram also. Now we are hip. We are present on Instagram also. All right. Welcome. Bye. See you next time.